I just want to encourage you guys in this great vocation to marriage. You know, none of us would exist. We wouldn't have what we have without our families. We all need our families. We come into this world dependent. And I think that's kind of a big deal. So often in the United States and in our world today, we pride being independent. That is, I don't need anybody else to help me. I can exist on my own. And yes, there's a certain amount of autonomy that we all have. We're all our own persons. We're all unique. But the more primary thing is that we're dependent. Without one another, we can't make it. And that's what we learned from being a small child, right? Like if our moms and dads didn't take care of us, we would not be here today. If they didn't wake up in the middle of the night and feed us, if they didn't touch us, show us love, teach us how to understand what's stirring in our hearts, we wouldn't know how to deal with it. But because we depended on that, we now are where we're at. We're in a position to be able to give. And in this season where you guys are talking about belonging, I encourage you to two things. One, to be dependent. That is dependent on needing God's grace, God's help, like the wedding feast at Cana. They needed that new and better wine that Jesus provided that they didn't even know they were out of. That to be dependent on God's grace, to be dependent on one another, and not think for a moment that I can just do this on my own, or I don't need you, my spouse, to live a holy life. I don't need you in my life anymore. I know there's a huge attack, a huge temptation to divorce. And there's, of course, trials and challenges and difficulties that every married couple faces. And then there's this huge temptation to say, it would be better if we were just apart, if I were independent of you. And whereas that might be the case sometimes, it's not God's plan anytime that would have to be the case. So to be dependent and live like you're dependent. The other thing I think we can do for belonging is just to follow the example of Jesus. He knew he belonged so much to the Father that he was free to give himself on the cross. He was free to give himself because he was dependent on love. And give yourselves to each other. Find a way every day to give yourself to your spouse. Of course, sometimes